Okay, I wanted to show you one other thing here. It's something I always do. I always bust it down, take the Blu-ray drive out, the Wi-Fi card out, the hard drive out, and then I always turn it on. Just make sure it's still doing the yellow light. Just make sure it wasn't something hardware related. And it is. And then I always test the power supply as well. You just pop it off. You're looking at the far right hole here. You gotta stick your black and touch it to metal so it's grounded. And I stick my red prong positive in the far hole, and I'm trying to get 12 volts. So I know the power supply is good. So I wanted to show you that. I'm going to bust it down some more, and then I'll show you how to put it on the jig and get it cleaned off. So I got my jig, I got everything broken down. Got the board here. I got my washers on each standoff. They just sit on top. I'm sure I could figure out a way to make them permanent if I maybe use some JB weld or something, but whatever. So also there's another hole right here. I don't even put that standoff in. You just got to be careful when you set these on. When you bolt it down, to look underneath to make sure the washers aren't hitting any resistors or capacitors or anything underneath there, because you don't want them to budge them loose. And I was always having an issue with this one being so close. I just took it off and leave it off for now on. So just set it on there. Put a screw in every hole, don't tighten them down all at once. Like I said, the reason why I put those washers on the standoff is because the holes in the middle here are big enough for the post to actually slide through, and you can't have that. The Xbox board, it's not like that, but PlayStation it is. Alright, once you got one in every hole, go ahead and tighten them down. Just hand tighten them, you don't have to torque them or nothing. Alright. Now you got your, I'm gonna get some more MEK here. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that, my phone rang and I had to refill my cup with MEK. So I got my MEK here, my Q-tips. Before I even dip it in MEK, I like to go around the edges and get all the dry stuff off. Now I've already cleaned the other part, I've already cleaned the fan off. I've already cleaned the heatsink. This part of the fan. You know, you're going to need an air compressor. You need to blow these things out. I've seen people reflow these and not blow them out. I get customers bring them to me all the time. Been reflowed in the past. The person that reflowed it didn't even clean it out. I even had a customer who previously sent it to that RSI company bring it to me within a couple weeks of getting it back from them, and they didn't blow it out. It just baffles me. So once you get the edges clean, clean your top. And remember, this is without MEK. You try to get as much of it off before you use the MEK, because the MEK will just make it really messy. You can get the MEK at any hardware store in the paint thinner aisle. Okay, so now that I got it mostly clean here, now I use my MEK to get the rest. Alrighty, so clean. I'm gonna go blow it off, go blow the board off, and then I'm gonna get it set up by the Jovi and we're gonna move on. Okay, so I got it all set up, ready to go. Just got one strip of Jovi tape over the CPU because we're not messing with that one. I don't want any heat to cause that one any issues. Got Kapton tape on top of the heat spreader of the graphics chip. I get a lot of questions, why do you do that, blah blah blah. I do that because the heat spreader takes so much, absorbs so much of the heat, and the Kapton tape will help prevent so much heat being absorbed by the heat spreader itself. because we're not trying to heat up the heat spreader, we're trying to heat up around the board itself, so the solder that's attached to the board is what gets hot. I got 8 strips of tape cut, of this silver tape cut here. We'll use those later. I'll show you. I got 4 low melt strips cut. Just to give you an idea, there it's at the end of the board and it goes about that far. And we'll show you why I need those 4 strips. So I'm going to do now, and like I said, when you put the jig on, make sure you look under here. Make sure that the washers aren't hitting anything, because you don't want them to nudge anything. You don't have to necessarily worry about this on the ones on the edges, because they don't hit nothing. Alright, so what I'm going to do now, put the camera back on the button on accident, grab my flux that I showed you, squeeze it, flux under the chip until I see it run out the bottom. And I flux around the other 3 edges. Turn my Presto heater all the way up, 400. I like to clean my thermal probe here so there's no residue on it, flux from previous jobs. And there we go. Now it's a waiting game of letting the lower heater heat up, or the Presto board heat up. You can see we're really low right now. And when it gets to 110 degrees, well actually when it gets to 90 degrees I turn the upper heater on fast reflow, just so I can let it start warming up. With this setup, I leave my upper heater on level 4, and when I swing it over I drop it down to 3. You also need to know with the Jovi, you got to go up to Tools, Options, and set these to 240. You don't have to do it every time. My computer here is stupid. Set them both to 240 and just hit accept. I don't have to do that every time, but I always check to make sure it is that way. Sometimes my computer is stupid and it seems like it resets itself. But anyways, so 90 degrees, when it hits 90 degrees on the lower heater, I turn on the upper heater to fast reflow. And when it hits 110, I'll swing it over and then drop it down to 3, level 3 on the height here. And then when it gets to 230, we'll lift the chip. Before I even, you gotta lift this lower, upper heater back up to 4 before you swing it over to lift the chip, or you're gonna hit hit the USBs here. So be careful of that.